All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Sunday talk within the Nine-Sided Circle. I am your host, Noor Kyle.
And I am her faithful sidekick, Mushtaq Ali.
Yes, and after several long weeks, we are back to hang out with you here on either Zoom or on YouTube, and it is so wonderful to reconnect again. We've been off having adventures in Dubai. I have done some professional training during the past week, so it's been probably about 4 weeks of intensive, hectic craziness that was really enriching. And we've had some awesome photos that we've been posting on the Facebook forum, the Nine-Sided Circle Facebook forum. And if you haven't had the chance to check those out, you might find them amusing. I mean, I'm sure we'll have various stories that will get shared over time about how things went and the cool stuff we did and what we learned and what we enjoyed and all of that stuff. So, long story short, we are home and back to hang out with you and super excited about it.
And slowly getting over our jet lag.
Oh my God. Very slowly, but that's because I had to, I had long full-time days this past week, so catching up with sleep was not a thing up until now. And I'm very happy about that. Very blessed to be able to sleep in this weekend. Other than that, do we have any? Well, I mean, the YouTube spiel, of course, which is if you'd like to support the work that we do, you can subscribe to our channel, like this video, like any of the videos that you watch and enjoy and learn something from. That helps us out a lot. Leave comments, comment on other people's comments, join our Facebook group. Please join our email list. As I've said, I'm going to be expanding on our usage of that because, as we all know, social media is kind of in limbo right now. We never know what's going to happen next. Many of us are opting out of social media. Mushtaq and I are not because our livelihood depends on us staying engaged, but we know for some of you that's a choice you've made and we want to honor that. So to stay in touch with us, email is where it's at. Otherwise, you can sign up to do one-on-ones with us or two-on-ones. And
Yes,
the way to
that
do
is
that
now
is
open again because we've actually have some space again.
yes, things are less hectic now, and we would be very happy to work with people who have been interested in getting some one-on-one support from either me or Mushtaq or both of us. And you can touch with base with us on that via email. We'll give you more details there. But our fees are reasonable, and we really do give you the full, full quality time with us.
Full Monty, as it were.
Right. But above all, we appreciate the support that many of you have been giving us just for keeping the boat afloat via donations and whatnot. It really means a lot to us whenever people express their appreciation that way because in these crazy ass times, we are doing the best we can to keep everything that we can offer accessible. And that's one way you can support us in return, and it means a lot. So thank you very much for that. All right, without further ado, let's get back to our hanging out, talking about important things. Tonight, I like the uh I like the title you gave to our talk, Mushtaq. What was it?
Um, a page from Gurdjieff's Grimoire.
Yes, so fun. All right, so I'm gonna let you lead us in. Oh, hey, someone cool is here.
Yeah, it's your grandma.
Yes. Should probably hang out in the background. Always nice to have that support. All right, Mushtaq. So, taking a page from Gurdjieff's Grimoire. Wow.
Yeah. So we are specifically going to talk about um, Gurdjieff's idea of creating the magnetic center. which is something that should be in a grimoire, however you're supposed to actually say that. Um, and the thing that he knew, I think, but did not express as well as he could have. As a matter of fact, I would even go so far as to say it's a missing piece. So, did you get the copy of my notes, Nor?
I did. I don't think it loaded properly, but I'm on that now. That's on my end, not yours.
Okay, good.
Yes,
So,
got it.
Gurdjieff's idea is that without a magnetic center, you can't really advance. And he proposed that the magnetic center was formed from accumulated influences.
Mm.
Um, it develops over time from exposure to higher influences. And his idea, or what he told his students, was that was books and teachings, individuals of spiritual refinement, um, or the experiences that contain real esoteric wisdom. And
Okay.
this accumulation creates an inner sensitivity to authentic spiritual knowledge. He made the distinction between what he called it uh, a bit uncreatively type A influences and type B influences. Type A influences were ordinary life experiences, culture, traditions, and societal norms. B influences were esoteric or spiritual ideas, teachings, experiences that come from outside the mechanical flow of life. And the magnetic center is what allows, supposedly, the person to recognize and seek out B influences rather than being lost in the mechanical repetition of life.
Okay. So, allowing you to open up not simply to A influences, but also to B influences.
Yeah. And Gurdjieff further went on to say that the magnetic center, when developed, would lead you to a true esoteric school, most specifically his school. Uh, and that you can lose your magnetic center. It can fade if it doesn't get properly fed. Now, the problem with this, and this is where we have to dig into his grimoire rather than just his exoteric teachings. The problem with this is that he is very vague on what these B influences really are and how one discerns them. And so tonight we're going to tell you exactly how to do that, what they are, how to do it.
Yeah. Well, to start out, how might we quickly define magnetic center?
The center that draws you towards the work.
Okay. Yeah. That part of you
Yeah,
that is somehow intuitively, instinctively drawn towards getting involved in changing your life, basically.
yeah. Though, and here's the trouble. Here's where people get screwed up. In order to really be able to discern what the B influences are, you need one thing. You need objective conscience. Now, I go back and say, by the time most people are 17 or 18 years old, they have started to develop conscience, but it is mechanical. It is not objective. It is the programming that says this is right, this is wrong, do this, don't do that, vote this way, not that way, all of these things. And it is purely mechanical. What we need is objective conscience, which tells us the truth about our experiences through our own empathy. I know that this is now a bad word according to Musk, but empathy and compassion. Objective empathy and objective compassion, not mechanical, not just as a reaction to something, but as a real connection with the other, uh, is what teaches you what the real esoteric teachings are. Without this, you are more likely to end up in a cult than to actually be able to do the work. Does this make sense? I realize that this is a bit of a digression, but I think it's important.
Yeah, any questions? Yes, Osama, sure.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about the objective aspect? Um, what is it that you really mean by objective conscience?
So I'm
Good
glad you
question.
asked that because we need
Mhm.
to get into that. Objective conscience comes from being in the awake state, being present in the world, and being able to connect with the world. So let's take two examples. One, a man walks through a market and he sees something that he wants and he reaches out and he steals it. Or he stops himself from stealing it because he says, the Holy Book says don't steal this. And if I steal it, I will be punished in hell and burned and beaten and all of this stuff. So I'm not going to do it. That's subjective conscience. Objective conscience is when he sees something that he wants or feels he needs, and he withholds his hand because he realizes that to reach out and take it would be to disregard the person who it belongs to. Not for any rules that he's been given externally, but from his own internal sense of you don't do that to another being.
So there's kind of a difference between externally imposed norms and guidelines and all of that stuff and uh, those values that you have developed over time through experience and contemplation, and all of that may be inspired by these external things, but really founded in your own sense of conscience.
Yeah. And conscience is fundamentally founded in direct experience of the other as subject.
Right. So it's kind of remind me of the whole idea of um, experiencing love as a subject to subject,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
now that is now um, being broader to just life in general.
Hmm.
And it does seem the way that I'm understanding it, and correct me um, if I'm missing something here, is that it to me it feels it's the most truest subjective, meaning behind all the conditioning, behind all of the cultural norms and all of that, it's like it's the eye, or it's the center of the circle of the subjective. I don't know the word maybe objective. I'm having kind of
Yeah,
hard
it's a
time understanding.
tricky word.
I see what you're saying though,
Yeah.
and I understand where you're coming from. I think one way we might look at this is little picture, big picture, with subjective being the little picture, objective being the big picture. It's just another way to frame it, but I hope that helps a little bit. Okay, great. Any other questions before we continue?
Yeah, but and you do understand what we're talking about, and that's a very important point to this.
Yeah, and it was a good question, so thank you. All right, onward.
Onward. So, how do you deal with this? What do you do? First, be awake, be present, be conscious. Then, understand that you are in a field with that which is around you. When Osama and I talk, even though he's 3,000 miles away, we create a field between us. That field contains both energy and knowledge. And what we try to do is to allow ourselves to experience each other as we speak as subject, to reach into, and this is where the objective comes in. We try to understand the other's experience um, without overlaying our own shit on it. Our own shit comes from being asleep. And I can sit here and I could go, oh, I don't have to listen to anything Osama says because he doesn't trim his beard right. You might laugh, but I have heard things that stupid.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm gonna say about that. But exactly, Mushtaq. And that connection can happen between anyone under the right circumstances.
Yeah. And not just between people.
Oh,
It will
close to,
happen
yeah,
between human beings and other living beings.
yes. Our sheikh used to say, connect with a tree,
Yeah.
sit and have a conversation with a tree.
And Noor got the experience of connecting with a camel.
Yes. Camels.
Camels.
Next time, more time with camels. So, with all that said, keep that in mind that this is something that is inherently accessible to us. We just get in our own ways in being able to experience that kind of objective connection. Alka.
Oh, um, experientially, can it feel like if you are not connected with it mechanically, but more consciously with another person, and you have created this field, um, sometimes it can surprise you also what you're
Oh, yeah.
speaking with them,
Yeah.
right? Okay. That's my experience lately. So that's,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
okay.
the way I think of it is if my connection with another person is good and they say something like, oh, I feel sad. If I am really connected to them, I will experience the feeling of sadness in the way that they feel sadness, even if I wouldn't call it sadness. It's sort of a matter of entrainment in a very interesting way. And this is the start, because if you have real conscience, you have real discernment. And this is troublesome for the world. People with real discernment trouble the status quo.
Oh, yeah. And it's like you don't even want to be troublemaker. You're
No,
like, I don't even know where this is coming from, but that's what's coming. But interestingly, the other person seems to really appreciate it, really like it.
sometimes, yeah. Mostly, you can get several reactions if you are experiencing the a person as other as subject. And it can be anything from a sigh of relief that somebody understands them to feeling really threatened because somebody understands them. So it's not just a bed of roses. And it's not just people. It's so you go to an esoteric school, so-called, and they tell you something really stupid. And everybody there goes, "Oh, wow, that is the most wonderful thing I ever heard." And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, my experience of this is if I did that, it would be really stupid. Now, if you are working from your mechanical self, you're going to go along with the group. This is scientifically proven, and it's very dumb. But we tend to go along with the group, even if we think that they're wrong. If you have real awake objective conscience, and if you are in your awake state, then you will figure out, maybe I need to withdraw from this group because this is stupid and I don't want to be a part of it. Same thing with books. When you read a book, you entrain with the book. You empathize with the writer. You do all of these things. And if it bumps up against something that goes against your conscience, you need to notice that. And I don't care what book it is.
Thank you.
So is this making some kind of sense to you guys?
Okay. Yeah. People are appearing to be on board.
Good. The magnetic center is a bridge between ordinary consciousness, the consciousness of what Gurdjieff called man one, two, and three, which is also includes woman one, two, and three, and non-binary one, two, and three, and whatever other one, two, and threes you have. Um, if you approach the magnetic center without conscience, you don't make that connection. You don't jump across the bridge between ordinary consciousness and the possibility of awakening.
So it's almost like you don't have the engine to get there, right?
Yeah. Now, Gurdjieff said that you knew you got there when you were accepted by an esoteric school.
Mm.
I think that this was probably a marketing ploy
Gurdjieff,
because
yeah.
according to Gurdjieff, he had the only acceptable esoteric school. Um, I think that there are schools out there that will work for a lot of people, and affinity groups work almost as well if everybody can stay conscious and have a conscience when they work with each other.
Affinity groups. Say more about that.
That's a group of people who have something in common and hang out together.
Yeah.
It's
Cool
like when
people
we were
hanging
in
out.
India, we hung out with Alka and a few other people.
Hmm.
and it was pretty groovy. We
Yeah.
had an affinity group, and it happened to be a temporary autonomous group because it then dissipated again. When we were in the Emirates, same thing. We gathered a group around us, started something, and then let it go. And inshallah, it will continue.
Yeah. And when the circumstances are right, we have the capacity to create that here as well
Yes.
on Zoom.
Yeah, we don't have to be in person with each other, though that is a lot of fun because then I can cook for you guys.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Please.
What about like inorganic materials? Like Zoom is being hosted by this computer, which is made of metal. Like, is there connection with like material, or does it have to be life, alive things?
Um, that's an interesting question, and it actually is an interesting question because right now our thoughts are meeting, and it's meeting through the medium of a computer or a group of computers and some servers somewhere. But those servers are part of the real world, and uh, Rumi wrote a poem that started, I started as a mineral and then died to being a mineral and became a plant and died to a plant and became an animal, died to an animal and became a human. And it goes on from there. But it's that idea of everything around you, if according to our particular weird philosophy, everything around you is made out of God, including the computer, including the fiber optic lines that shine the little pulses of laser light through to create stuff. So um, they're mediums, they're non-organic in the sense that they don't grow, except for crystals grow. But yeah, so I don't think that it is as big of an issue as uh, some people think it is, because I think personally that other than God does not exist. So I am talking to God expressing itself through jewels, and I'm talking to through God expressing itself as a computer, etc., etc. And now I can be branded as a heretic by Wahhabis everywhere.
Yeah, and I think on the, slightly more animistic side of things, which will also get us burnt as heretics. I mean, you can hang out with rocks. So, yeah, you can hang out with minerals and all of that stuff. It's really just a matter of how open you are to that connection and how attuned you are.
Um,
Something to think about.
yeah, Michaela
So,
has asked an interesting question.
yes, Michaela asks, is the magnetic center fueled by pain and suffering?
And the answer is no, it is not. One might experience pain and suffering through one's magnetic center, and it can be the pain and suffering of others or the pain and suffering of oneself, the pain and suffering of anything existent on the earth.
I think of pain and suffering as messages of some kind, and the meanings in those messages would have to be determined, but I don't think that they are necessarily fuel in and of themselves. Osama.
Yeah. The way that I understood that question of fuel, maybe if pain and suffering can be a spark for the magnetic center, or maybe a spark for the individual to say, ah, my life needs to take a different orientation, or there's something that's bigger than all of this that's happening in my life. Um, in that case, can pain and suffering be a spark to ignite the magnetic center? And are there multiple different sparks for that? If
Almost undoubtedly, because often we learn conscience through the experience of pain and suffering. For instance, you're a little boy. You go up and you kick a dog. The dog yelps and runs off. The dog's mother comes out and bites you on the ass. And you go, oh, I am now experiencing what that poor puppy experienced. I should probably not do that anymore because that violates the dog's inwardness. Only you say it like an 8-year-old instead of like that.
Yeah. I mean, some people are discouraged by pain. It doesn't fuel them forward. It makes them feel like, ooh, I don't want to forget this. I don't want to deal with that. So that's why I say it's not necessarily fuel. But if we can receive that pain as a motivational message, certainly it can be that spark. Thank you to both of you. I hope that
Yeah.
begins
Good
to,
questions.
if not totally answers your question, Michaela. Jill asks, is there a specific location in the body for the magnetic center?
People will argue about this.
Mm.
And in a certain sense, the magnetic center is a metaphor for something that's real, in which case metaphors are not positional. And most people I know who know anything about this would say if the magnetic center has a location in the chest by the heart chakra. And in fact, is actually the opening of the higher emotional center. So there are two answers to that,
Hmm.
both of which are true, or neither of which are true. Does that sort of make sense, Jill?
Yeah, yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank God I made sense. All
Right?
right.
Yeah. Whew. Okay. What next? What's next?
What's next is understanding how to make your magnetic center. First, wake yourself up. Begin the work of breaking your conditioning. We've talked about that all over this channel for years now. So I'm not going to go into grim detail on it, but wake yourself up. Then allow yourself to experience everything around you as having presence. That includes rocks. I've
Computer
known many
chips.
rocks that have a lot of presence. Trees, birds. Birds are a little stupid, but unless they're crows, but the little brown ones are kind of dumb, but they still have presence.
I'm laughing because we have a running joke with a friend of ours that there are ubiquitous brown birds here, so we call them UBBs, and they're literally everywhere. And they are kind of dumb, so he's not wrong. That's what he has in mind. But also lots of crows around here, and they know what's up.
Yeah. They got a handle on it.
Yeah. All right. So here we are. We are developing the skills to be able to have this connection with rocks and UVBs and trees and dogs and people. So let's talk more about how to do that.
Yeah. So once you have woken yourself up for whole seconds at a time, you can allow yourself to experience. Now let me pull up that list again. Spiritual ideas, teachings, and the experience that comes from outside the mechanical flow of life.
Mhm.
That's what you're looking for to help build your magnetic center.
Okay, so this is opening ourselves up to experiencing not just ordinary life experiences, aka A influences,
Yeah, A
but
influences include therapy.
okay.
B influences would include hanging out with a real spiritual teacher.
So it's just a step up. It's
Yeah,
not like you cut those things out of your life, I mean, culture, tradition, societal norms necessarily, but you
yeah.
need to
One
see,
helps you cope with your neuroses. One helps you cope with being awake.
yeah, again, small picture, big picture.
Both are useful.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, I'm just trying to. I thought I had it formulation, and then it vanished out of my head. Um, you said that I would have thought that hanging out with a spiritual teacher would be an A influence. Uh, uh,
Depends on the spiritual teacher.
no, a C influence. Um, because for some reason I had got the A and the C the wrong way around, the way I remembered them for many years. So I thought that
Yeah.
um, it was the other way around. And I had gone back earlier and checked in search of the miraculous. And interestingly enough, it's in chapter 10. He doesn't talk about A, B, and C there. He talks about influences of the first, second, and third kinds within that sequence. But
Yeah.
anyway, to get back to what you just
That,
said,
of course, is foreboding the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
yeah, I never saw it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Other of those movies I've never seen. But anyway, I agree about the therapist being the A influence, but wouldn't you say that hanging out with somebody who is actually a real spiritual teacher would be a C influence?
It depends. I suspect for that, it depends on what your state is. If your state is such that you can only take
Mm.
in the so-called second influence, then that's that. If you are open enough, you can take on experiencing a third level, let's say. So some of that I think is a little fluid.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So, um,
I mean, it's certainly the case that not all people who hang around with a genuine spiritual teacher get anything.
yeah, this is an unfortunate uh, thing. And Kat comments, it is not easy to find a spiritual teacher, and that is definitely the truth. So, if you want to find a spiritual teacher, the first thing you do is you go down to your bookstore and you find a book called Combating Cult Mind Control by Dr. Stephen Hassan, and you read it 3 times to really get it into your head. And then every time you go to hang out at a satsang or something, you remind yourself of that book. And if the person is doing the things in the book that are culty, you need to leave. If they're not, you hang out. And then it are they telling you something that is useful to your development? Can you use what they say? Because there are people who are not culty, but they don't tell you much. So they are out there. I like to point out Adyashanti. I've never seen him do anything culty in the years that I've been paying attention to him. So I know you can find them. Alka says that you should talk with me, but I pay Alka to say that. So
Oh, but I do have a question,
yes,
Mustak, on this. So there is a saying, when the student is ready, the teacher comes to you.
yes.
You don't look for a teacher.
Oh, you should look for a teacher, but you should know that
Okay,
what you find mostly is not that. If you
gotcha.
sit in your house waiting for the teacher will never show up. I've told you the story about how I found my first teacher, right? Traveling from Morocco across North Africa and up into the Levant and then into Iran and then into Turkey and not finding a teacher and getting home. And a
Correct,
mile from my house, there was a teacher.
correct.
I would have never found that teacher if I had not gone on the journey.
So what is that statement then? When the student is ready, the teacher
What
comes to you.
what does the student need to do to get ready?
Ah,
Yes,
got it. Yeah,
it's that
search.
simple.
Got it. Be a seeker. Gotcha. Thank you. And for the record, you don't pay me for saying that.
Oh yeah, I
I
do.
haven't received a
I make
single
you
dollar
coffee.
from you. You make me coffee, yes.
I make you coffee. That's worth more than $1. I make good coffee.
Um, So,
Chris is being goofy.
There is also one more thing. I don't know about Kate, but what I have seen that people have a certain picture in their mind about a teacher,
Oh yeah.
what a teacher should look like, what they
Yeah,
should
we had
talk
fun with that
like.
when we were visiting you.
Yes. I mean, you broke all the norms at my house. What? A white person can be a teacher, a guru, or can eat meat and can talk and not wearing orange clothes and
I look
asking us to
terrible at this.
bow to their feet. Oh my God. Yes. Yeah, but that's also I have noticed people have that. The teacher could be right in front of you, but
Yeah.
you'll miss it
If you're not
because you
ready,
you have,
you will not see it.
yeah, right, right.
Amen to that. Hamushtak.
Yep,
Like you get missed all the time, Noor.
she does.
Case in point, right?
Yeah, because
I mean,
she's
we just saw that just now, so we all need
cute,
to remember
she's young looking,
how
and
easy
she's a
this
girl.
is. Yep.
And everybody knows that a cute, young looking girl can't be a spiritual teacher, right?
He's a kick-ass teacher.
Yeah, she's better than me as far as I'm concerned. I am old and crusty and have no patience left.
As I always tell him, it's part of his charm. But yeah, I mean, case in point. So keep your eyes open, keep your heart open and awake.
And don't buy into anybody's BS. BS stands for belief system, not the other thing, but the other thing too. People have belief systems about teachers, and they are frequently wrong. One of the most brilliant teachers I ever met was a guy who ran a hamburger stand in Slagman, Arizona. That's on old Route 66. And I would take my students there years ago when he was still alive and just have them sit for a while and watch people go in and out of the hamburger stand and observe the changes from beginning to end. And after they did that, I would send them in to order a burger and fries or something, because you always got to pay your dues. And this man would transform their state in ways that they never expected. And I came to realize that he was a fully awakened being teaching through the medium of mediocre hamburgers and fries.
Almost makes me hungry for mediocre hamburgers and fries.
Yeah.
Okay, so it almost sounds like, over time, we get exposed to things that begin to help us in the very beginning stages nurture this development unintentionally, right, of a magnetic center. But it sounds like once that starts happening and we shift into a more conscious awareness that there's so much room to move forward and to move beyond the ordinary, the mechanical shit that we all get stuck in. It sounds like from there we're able to consciously build a magnetic center.
Yes. And you can't unconsciously build a magnetic center.
Yeah, I think I'm just looking to clarify, where does this begin? Like, how do we get there?
And I will tell you again, it begins with being awake.
Yes.
It's where it all starts. Kevin,
Yeah, so you told influences can build or feed the magnetic center, and I'm wondering if there are influences that can deplete the magnetic center, and what
oh
might those
yes,
be?
absolutely. American style football. I'm only being halfway facetious here. Things that cause you to go to sleep, things that put you in trance. So you watch football, you go into a football trance. You watch basketball, you go into a basketball trance. You watch the symphony, you go into a symphony trance. Um, and I'm not going to moralize about how much better a symphony is, but all of them can put you into trance. All trances can reinforce your mechanical self. Basically, anything that you experience as a robot depletes your magnetic center. And Gurdjieff was pretty clear on that. Uh, You have to nourish your magnetic center with the right stuff, or it can and probably will fade, causing a person to drift back into mechanical existence. So you absolutely can. And then there's the whole idea of Gurdjieff's idea of crystallizing centers. And I think it's center 5 that if you crystallize it wrong, you're screwed and you can't advance anywhere, and you have to, through painful and arduous methods, deconstruct that center and rebuild it again from the start. Or so they say. Center 5, yes. But we're talking about center 4. So I'm going to focus on that and say, feed your center. Feed it with objective spiritual material. And that's going to be tricky because some objective spiritual material can be taken in a very subjective, mechanical way.
Mm-hmm.
We see this all the time with people who read the great Sufi poets. I feel sorry for Rumi because people read Rumi's poetry and it's so beautiful and it stirs their emotional center and they emote all over it. But they have an entire subjective experience and never, never, ever get the real objective experience that Rumi is trying to give them. I tell people usually if you want to study Rumi before you read the Masnavi or the Divani Shamsi Tabriz, get a copy of the Fihi Mafihi, which is in English that means it is what it is. And it is prose and it's Rumi's teachings to his students. Go through that, then read his poetry.
Are you ready for the next question?
Yes.
Michaela says, is it a strong sign? Is it, sorry, my contacts are getting all glary. Is it a sign of a strong magnetic center if we manage to cross successfully the dark nights of the soul? Being able to let go gracefully in these times, is this a good sign?
It is a good sign. Yes. Ian.
Yes, Ian is offering a link to It Is What It Is, the personal discourses of Rumi, obviously by Rumi, and
Translation
put
by,
together by Doug Marmon.
yeah,
Yes.
not familiar. The only translation I've ever read was Nicholson's. Was it Nicholson's or Arbery? It might have been Arbery. He called it The Teachings of Rumi.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm interested in checking that one out too.
Yeah. Arbery's prose is uninspired but accurate.
Um, Amelia, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, so is the magnetic center a subset of intuition, or are they the same thing, intuition and the magnetic center?
No, there are different things. Though the magnetic center can aid you with intuition. It can help you build intuition once you have the magnetic center going, but it is more conscience than intuition.
So I mean, they're not So it's not a subset of it. It's not a
No,
subset. Okay.
no. Now, intuition is actually a manifestation of the first three centers, in my humble opinion.
Okay. Any other thoughts, questions? How about you, Mushtaq? Do you have anything you want to add?
Just to reiterate again, the trick is be awake, stop your conditioning, um, and connect. Um, yeah. So it wasn't Nicholson, it was Arbery who translated it. Arbery was Nicholson, was a student of Nicholson who did a lot of interesting translations as well.
Yeah, my translation of the Mathnawi is the one by Nicholson.
Yeah, the big 5 volume.
Yeah, I've only got 3 of the volumes.
Mm.
I think I got through 1.5.
Yeah. I managed to get through all the volumes, and it took me 3 years, I think.
Mm.
And then I couldn't remember
Jarish.
what was in the first 2 volumes.
I've had experiences like that.
So that's pretty much what I've had to say about this evening. I want you to consider that this process needs this essential key to it in order for you to actually be able to discern what is real spirituality versus what is mechanical.
Yep.
And it will help keep you away from bad people, of which there are many, unfortunately. For all you know, we might be one. We might be planning on taking all of your money.
It's me.
It's her, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this is how you get that engine going towards deepening into the work.
So, Noor,
Hmm?
bother them.
Bother them?
Yeah. See which ones want to talk who haven't talked yet. Which ones who haven't even talked.
All right.
Kyle.
Yeah, let's hear from what's on
Yeah.
your mind, Kyle?
Hi. I'll speak up here. Um, I was thinking if you, or maybe if you could speak to us or enlighten us on the idea of, um, like discipline or a daily routine and how to avoid falling into, lapses back without really getting any forward progress. If you understand what I'm saying,
I
of just
do.
falling back asleep because you have a routine.
Yeah. So, first thing, before any other thing, develop a breath practice. We have talked about that on several videos, so you can go through those and try them out and see which one works for you. Or you can talk to Nora or I one-on-one, and we will design one specifically for you and nobody else on the planet. Either one. But breath practice first. Then use your breath practice to help you pin your awakeness to the moment. And those two things, if you can accomplish them, are half the work right there. Breathe consciously, attention to breath. Then watch your step, using your breath practice to make sure that you step in a way that helps you stay awake. And watch your step does not mean look at your feet.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Good.
Good.
Osama.
Yeah. As you were just speaking, Mushtaq, one thing came to mind. Um, this term that's used by the Sufis, which is majdub,
Hmm?
which translates to magnetized, pretty much.
Yep.
Um, and it points to the the ingredient. It points to love as an ingredient in this formula as well. This the
Yes.
the magnetization that love brings to it. And it's interesting. It just came to mind as far as like the words itself and the connection there.
Mm.
And you are absolutely correct. Um, and that hits on many levels because if your magnetic center is well developed, then you have a lot of charisma. A lot of charisma allows you to connect with the other, and there's a sense of love and loving kindness that flows between you.
Thanks, Osama. Now, Kevin, how are you doing with this? Do you have any questions or thoughts you might like to share?
No, but Amelia said something that I was questioning as well
Mm.
about the relationship to intuition and the magnetic center. But I think I can understand the distinction now if you put the magnetic center more within the framework of conscience,
Yeah.
rather than intuition. And I think intuition is perhaps more like instinct, something that comes from.
Yeah. Intuition comes from the unconscious
Hmm.
and is given to the conscious mind as a whole. Like you're walking down the street and you're about to turn down an alley to take a shortcut, and all of a sudden your mind says to you, do not take that turn. You slowly creep up and you look around and you see that there is a group of thugs down the alley holding switchblades and lead pipes. And so you listen to your intuition and keep on going.
Yeah, I think there's a word in cognitive science. Well, there's a word in cognitive science called commutatory explosion, which means it refers to that if we were actually conscious of everything we were unconscious of, we'd be too overwhelmed to
Yeah.
even process any of that data.
Yeah, and that is absolutely true. We should experience gratitude to our reticular body for filtering most of that stuff out. Who else have we not heard from?
You know,
Pick on people,
honestly,
Noor.
I think Chris. I don't know if Chris is able to speak with
I
us, but
was trying to do the hand raise thing.
oh, okay.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, what I just kept on running in my head over and over again was the diligent, the grateful, and the faithful, and like being
Mm.
diligent with working with our magnetic center, then and the faithfulness that the work that was done is getting us somewhere, and that the that we're grateful for all the goodies that the magnetic center helps us to have.
Yes. And that does tie into that particular practice, interestingly enough. More about that in the super secret group later on.
Nice.
And how are things in Superior these days?
They're rocking. You know, I almost said on fire, but we're already going to be in fire season soon, so I'm not
So
going to use that
let's
expression.
not challenge. Yeah.
But uh, good. Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah,
asking.
I love it every time I see a video from you guys. Puts a smile on my face.
All right, and you know the encouragement that we get from y'all is really appreciated too.
All
So thank you.
good.
Yeah,
That makes
yeah.
me happy.
It really is nice.
Yeah. Well,
Yay.
it's nice to see something like that happen. I mean, it's so close to the town I grew up in, except that I was here in the mountains, that if that had happened when I was a kid, I would have been overjoyed.
That's the one thing I'll say that just not to get too far into it is that people are saying all the time now is like we never had anything like this when we were kids here,
Yeah,
and neither did I. You know, so
Yeah,
it is.
right.
Francisco gets it. You know, that's what matters to me.
It's changing.
exactly.
It's changing
Hmm.
for the better. Thanks, Chris. So that is everyone, Mushtaq.
That's everyone. We've
Yeah,
heard from everyone.
I
I
think
can't even
so. I don't know
recommend
if Kay has anything they want to share in chat before we wrap up. But yeah, it seems like we're kind of short and sweet-ish this week, but I think that's
Yeah,
a good way to get back
that's a
into
good way to start because
Mhm.
otherwise I'll fall asleep on the keyboard. We are
Speed
still jet lagged,
recovery.
folks.
Well, um,
All right, I'm going to
yeah,
move over to Brady
Brady
Bunch.
Bunch mode.
Where are we? View.
Yeah, it's so good to have, all our cool people and even a few new ones, a few new cool people joining us this evening after us having been AWOL for a few weeks. You guys are amazing for showing up. And even with daylight savings time, you guys are on the ball. I feel very honored by that. Thank you so much. Um, but yeah, from here on out for us until November, it will be daylight savings. So hopefully we can all adapt to that gracefully as possible. And again, for those of you celebrating Ramadan and Lent, keep up the good work. And I hope you can find meaning in whatever practices that you're taking on during this time.
And if you're not celebrating Ramadan, eat a croissant for us.
All right, everyone, much love. And we can wave to each other and wave to everyone watching on the replay. We'll see you again next week, God willing. Take care.